My name is Rebecca Chen and I'm 34 years old. The day my brother Marcus humiliated me at his wedding was supposed to be a celebration of love and family. Instead, it became the day I finally showed my family exactly who they'd been underestimating for the past decade. But before I tell you how I shut down my brother's $180,000 wedding reception in front of 127 witnesses, you need to understand the pattern of behavior that led to that moment. I arrived at the Riverside Country Club at 2:47 p.m. on a perfect Saturday afternoon in June. The venue looked stunning. Manicured lawns, white tent pavilions, flower arrangements that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. I'd chosen this location carefully 8 months ago when I purchased it, knowing Marcus had been obsessing over having his wedding here since he got engaged. The irony of what was about to unfold wasn't lost on me. I pulled up to the front entrance in my modest Honda Civic, watching as valets rushed to open doors for BMWs and Mercedes. When I stepped out, a valet approached me with a polite smile. "Welcome to Riverside Country Club. Are you here for the Marcus Chen wedding?" "Yes, I'm his sister," I said, handing him my keys. He took them, but before I could walk toward the entrance, my mother appeared at the top of the stairs. She was wearing a champagne-colored dress that probably cost $3,000, her hair perfectly styled, diamonds glinting at her throat. The moment she saw me, her expression shifted from elegant hostess to cold dismissal. "Rebecca," she said, descending the stairs with calculated grace. "You're here." Not, "I'm so glad you came," or, "You look lovely." Just the acknowledgement of my presence, delivered with the emotional warmth of a parking ticket. "Of course I'm here, Mom. It's Marcus's wedding." She looked me up and down, taking in my simple navy dress. Elegant but not flashy, appropriate but not expensive. I saw the judgment flicker across her face. "The service entrance is around the back," she said, loud enough that several arriving guests turned to look. "Family uses the front entrance. You're not really family." The words hung in the air like a slap. I counted 127 guests within hearing distance. Some already inside the lobby, others arriving, a few standing on the terrace with cocktails. All of them had heard. Some looked away uncomfortably. Others stared with undisguised curiosity. A few whispered to each other. My mother adjusted her dress with deliberate precision, as if she'd just handled an unpleasant but necessary task. "Marcus has a seating chart. You'll be at table 18 near the back. Please use the service entrance so you don't disrupt the other guests." Before I could respond, my brother Marcus appeared with his phone out, already filming. He was wearing a custom tuxedo, his hair styled perfectly, his smile wide and cruel. "This is perfect," he said, capturing the moment. "Hey everyone, say hi to my sister who can't even afford to dress properly for my wedding." He filmed me standing there, then panned to show the service entrance sign with an arrow pointing around the building. Within minutes, I saw him typing on his phone. The post went up on Instagram before I'd even moved. A video of me standing awkwardly at the front entrance with the caption, "Know your place" face with tears of joy, #family hierarchy, #wedding day, #not all heroes wear capes. I took a deep breath and smiled. "Of course, Mom. I'll use the service entrance. Congratulations, Marcus." I walked around the building, passing the kitchen delivery area, the staff parking lot, and finally reaching a plain metal door with a small sign that read, "Service entrance, staff only." A young woman in catering uniform held it open for me, looking embarrassed. "I'm so sorry about this," she whispered. "I heard what happened out front." "It's okay," I told her. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." She led me through the industrial kitchen, past stainless steel prep stations and staff changing rooms, finally emerging into the main reception hall through a door marked "Staff Access." I could see the elegant ballroom from this angle. Crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the golf course, tables dressed in ivory linens with elaborate centerpieces of roses and hydrangeas. Table 18 was indeed in the back corner, partially hidden behind a support column, with a view of exactly nothing except the exit signs and the kitchen door. My place card read simply Rebecca, while every other card on nearby tables included last names and titles: Dr. Thompson, Judge Martinez, Senator Wong's family. But I sat down, folded my hands and waited. Because I'd been waiting for this moment for 8 months, ever since I'd quietly purchased Riverside Country Club for $2.3 million in cash. If you're genuinely enjoying this story, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button. But only if you're actually finding it interesting. No pressure at all. Let me take you back 3 years to help you understand how we got here. I need you to see the pattern, the systematic erasure of my worth that my family had perfected over decades. I grew up as the younger sibling in a family that worshipped success, but only the kind of success they could understand and show off. Marcus went to Wharton, got his MBA, and landed a position at a prestigious investment firm in Manhattan. He made $340,000 a year, drove a Porsche and lived in a penthouse in Tribeca. My parents threw parties to celebrate his promotions. They framed his business magazine features. They introduced him as our son, the investment banker. I went to a state school, graduated with a degree in computer science, and took a job at a small tech startup that no one had heard of. My starting salary was $65,000. Decent but not impressive by my family's standards. My mother told people I worked with computers, in the same tone someone might say, works at a gas station. My father stopped asking about my job after the first year, clearly bored by my explanations of back-end infrastructure and database architecture. The startup was called DataStream Solutions. I was employee number 12, brought in to rebuild their entire data pipeline. I worked 80-hour weeks, sleeping under my desk some nights, living on vending machine coffee and determination. My family never asked about it. When I tried to mention a breakthrough or a successful launch, my mother would interrupt. That's nice, dear. Did you hear Marcus closed a $50 million deal? 3 years ago, DataStream got acquired by a Fortune 500 company for $840 million. As employee number 12 with equity points and a critical role, my shares were worth $4.7 million after taxes. I was 31 years old and suddenly wealthier than I'd ever imagined. I didn't tell my family. I'd learned by then that my achievements didn't matter to them, so why bother? Instead, I invested carefully. I bought a modest condo in a good neighborhood. Nothing flashy, just 1,200 square feet with good light and a parking spot. I kept driving my Honda Civic. I kept wearing clothes from Nordstrom Rack instead of designer boutiques. I invested in index funds, bought a few rental properties, and continued working as a senior engineer at the acquiring company for $180,000 a year plus benefits. To my family, I remained Rebecca who works with computers. The disappointment. The one who didn't achieve anything worth bragging about. The pattern of exclusion started small and grew over time. My parents would have dinner parties and forget to invite me. When I'd hear about them later through mutual friends, my mother would say, "Oh, it was just for Marcus's work colleagues. You wouldn't have been interested." Marcus got a new apartment and my parents threw him a housewarming party with 60 guests. When I bought my condo, my mother said, "We can't keep celebrating every little thing, Rebecca. It's just a small condo. Family vacations happen without me." "We didn't think you could afford it," my father explained when I found out they'd spent 2 weeks in Italy with Marcus and his then-girlfriend. Holiday celebrations got scheduled around Marcus's availability. "He's so busy," my mother would say. "We have to work with his schedule." If I mentioned I was also busy, she'd wave it off. "You can take time off from your computer job." The financial disparity became a weapon. Marcus would pick up the check at restaurants and my parents would praise his generosity. When I offered to pay, my mother would say, "Save your money, dear. We know you don't have much to spare." At Marcus's engagement party, my father gave a toast, "To my son who has exceeded every expectation and made us prouder than we ever imagined possible." He looked directly at me during the pause that followed, the unspoken comparison hanging in the air. But the cruelest part was the secret I carried. I'd been financially supporting my parents for 6 years. It started when my father's consulting business hit a rough patch. He came to me embarrassed, asking for a loan of $10,000 to cover some expenses. "Just until we get back on our feet," he said. "Don't tell Marcus. You know how he is about money." I gave him $15,000, told him not to worry about paying it back. A month later, my mother needed help with a medical bill, $8,000. Then property taxes on their house, $12,000. Then my father's car needed repairs, $6,000. It became a pattern. Every month I'd transfer money to their account. Sometimes $2,000, sometimes $5,000, sometimes more. Over 6 years I'd given them $347,000. They never thanked me. They never acknowledged it in front of Marcus. They'd call me late at night when they needed money, their voices strained with financial stress. Then the next day at family dinner, they'd praise Marcus for picking up a $200 restaurant tab. I kept track of every transfer in a spreadsheet. Date, amount, reason given, total running balance. I told myself I was helping family, being a good daughter. But deep down I knew the truth. I was buying scraps of acknowledgement, hoping that someday they'd see my worth. They never did. And now, sitting at table 18 in the back corner of the ballroom I owned, watching guests filter in through the front entrance I'd been banned from using, I was done hoping. The ceremony was held on the lawn overlooking the golf course. I watched from my terrible seat as Marcus married Jennifer, a corporate lawyer from his firm. She was beautiful, successful, and from the kind of old money family that my parents desperately wanted to impress. The ceremony was perfect. String quartet, silk ribbon decorations, rose petals scattered on the aisle runner. My mother cried elegant tears. My father beamed with pride. I wasn't included in the family photos. When the photographer called for immediate family, my mother physically turned her back to me, creating a wall with her body that made it clear I wasn't to approach. I watched from my seat as they posed. Parents, bride, groom, Jennifer's family. Not one person looked my way or suggested I join. The reception began at 5:30 p.m. Cocktails were served on the terrace while guests mingled and admired the venue. I heard at least 20 people compliment the location. "This place is stunning. How did you find this venue? This must have cost a fortune." Marcus accepted the praise as if he'd personally created the grounds and buildings with his bare hands. Dinner was a 5-course meal. Butternut squash soup, arugula salad with candied pecans, a palate cleanser of champagne sorbet, herb-crusted lamb with roasted vegetables, and a trio of desserts. At table 18 I was served the same meal as everyone else, though the server looked apologetic as she set down my plates. She was one of the staff members I'd met with when I bought the club, and I could see she recognized the cruelty of my seating assignment. "Everything's delicious," I told her warmly. "Please thank the kitchen staff." She smiled relieved. "Of course, Ms. Chen." My mother was at table 1, the head table directly in front of the dance floor. I watched her hold court, accepting compliments from guests, laughing at jokes, playing the role of proud mother of the groom. She didn't look in my direction once during the entire dinner service. Between the main course and dessert, Marcus stood up to make a speech. He thanked everyone for coming, told a charming story about how he met Jennifer, thanked his parents for their support and sacrifice. "My parents gave me every advantage," he said, voice thick with emotion. "They invested in my education, believed in my potential, and taught me the value of success. Everything I am today I owe to them." The room applauded. My father wiped his eyes. My mother glowed with pride. Marcus continued, "And they taught me an important lesson. Family is everything. Family supports each other. Family lifts each other up. Family celebrates success together." He raised his glass. "To family. To family," the room echoed. I took a sip of my wine and checked my watch. 7:15 p.m. Perfect timing. After dessert the dancing began. The DJ played upbeat music and guests flooded the dance floor. I remained at table 18 watching the celebration from my exile. A few distant relatives stopped by to say hello, clearly uncomfortable with my isolation but not uncomfortable enough to challenge it. "You look well," they'd say. "How's work?" Then they'd drift away, relieved to return to the celebration. At 7:43 p.m., I saw my mother approach the DJ booth. She was laughing with Jennifer's mother, pointing at something on a tablet, probably the photo slideshow they'd prepared. The DJ nodded and announced a special presentation. The lights dimmed. On a large screen behind the head table a slideshow began, Marcus and Jennifer, a journey to forever. Photos from their childhoods, their college years, their early dating days, their engagement. Soft music played. Guests cooed and applauded. Then came the family photos. Marcus as a baby with my parents. Marcus's first day of school. Marcus's high school graduation. Marcus at Harvard. Marcus at his first job. Photo after photo of Marcus with my parents. Marcus achieving milestones, Marcus being celebrated. Not a single photo included me. Not one. In photos where I knew I'd been present, family vacations, holiday dinners, birthday parties, I'd been cropped out or the photo had been chosen from an angle that excluded me entirely. It was a historical revision, a visual statement. This family consists of 3 people and I am not one of them. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I love hearing from people who've dealt with difficult family dynamics. The slideshow ended to enthusiastic applause. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Marcus hugged his parents, then hugged Jennifer's parents. The DJ announced it was time for the parent dances. First dance with the mothers, then the fathers. While Marcus danced with my mother, I stood up and walked quietly toward the venue manager's office. I timed this perfectly. The celebration was in full swing. Everyone was distracted and emotional and no one would notice my absence. David Morrison, the venue manager, was exactly where I'd asked him to be. In his office reviewing the evening's schedule. He looked up when I knocked. "Miss Chen, is it time?" "It's time," I said. He nodded, stood and straightened his tie. "I'll make the announcement during the father-daughter dance as you requested. Are you certain about this?" "I've never been more certain about anything in my life." "Very well." He picked up a tablet and followed me back toward the ballroom. We waited in the service hallway, watching through the staff entrance as Marcus danced with my mother, then transitioned to dancing with Jennifer's mother. The song changed. My father approached Jennifer for their dance. The father-daughter moment everyone anticipated. The music swelled. Guests circled the dance floor, phones out, capturing the moment. It was beautiful and touching and exactly the kind of memory my parents loved. Being at the center of someone else's important moment, basking in reflected glory. David cleared his throat, checked his tablet once more and then walked onto the dance floor. He moved with quiet authority, his presence professional but firm. He approached my father and Jennifer mid-dance. "Excuse me," David said, his voice polite but clear enough to carry. "I apologize for the interruption." The music didn't stop immediately, so David gestured to the DJ who faded the song. The sudden silence was jarring. All 127 guests turned to look. My father, confused and annoyed, stopped dancing. "What's the meaning of this?" he demanded. "This is my son's wedding." David maintained his professional composure. "Sir, I'm David Morrison, the venue manager here at Riverside Country Club. I need to speak with you regarding this evening's event." My mother had pushed through the crowd now, her face tight with anger. "This is highly inappropriate. We paid for this venue. Whatever problem you have can wait until after the reception." "Actually, ma'am, that's precisely what I need to address." David looked around the room, making eye contact with several guests. "I've been informed that there's been a significant misunderstanding about this venue and tonight's arrangements." Marcus stepped forward, his confidence radiating. He'd dealt with difficult vendors before. This was just another person who needed to be managed. "Look, Morrison, we booked this place 6 months ago. We have a contract. Whatever issue you think you have, it can be handled through proper channels. Right now you're interrupting my wedding reception." "I understand, Mr. Chen. However, I'm not here about the booking or the contract." David consulted his tablet. "I'm here because the property owner has requested that I make an announcement regarding ownership of Riverside Country Club." The room had gone completely silent. Every person was watching, many still holding up their phones, inadvertently recording what was about to happen. I could see confusion on most faces, curiosity on others. My mother's expression had shifted from anger to uncertainty. "The owner," my father said. "What does the owner have to do with anything? We're paying customers." "That's just it, sir." "You're not." David turned slowly, scanning the room until his eyes found me standing near the service entrance. He lifted his hand and gestured in my direction. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Rebecca Chen, who purchased Riverside Country Club 8 months ago for $2.3 million. She is the owner of this property, and she has been since October of last year." You could have heard a pin drop in that ballroom. Every head turned toward me. Phones pivoted, capturing my face. I stepped out of the shadows near the service entrance and walked slowly toward the center of the room, my modest navy dress suddenly feeling like armor. My mother's face had gone completely white. My father stood frozen, his mouth slightly open. Marcus looked like someone had physically struck him. Confusion, disbelief, and dawning horror crossing his features in rapid succession. "What?" my mother whispered. That's not possible." I reached the edge of the dance floor and stopped. "Hello, Mom." Marcus. "Beautiful wedding. Really beautiful venue, isn't it? I thought so too when I purchased it last October." You're lying, Marcus said, his voice cracking. You can't afford, you don't have, there's no way. I have the property deed, the purchase documents, the LLC formation papers, and 8 months of ownership records, I said calmly. David, would you like to continue? David nodded. Ms. Chen specifically chose not to reveal her ownership when the venue was booked. She paid for all the services tonight personally. The catering, the bar, the DJ, the flowers, the tables, chairs, everything. The $47,000 deposit your family paid 6 months ago? Ms. Chen had that transferred into an escrow account. You'll receive a full refund. My father found his voice. Rebecca, what is this? Some kind of joke. No joke, Dad. Just the truth. I own this property. I paid for this entire reception. The country club you've been bragging about to all your friends for 6 months? The prestigious venue Marcus was so proud to book? I let him book it. I looked around at the 127 witnesses, their phones still recording. The service entrance I was told to use because I'm not really family? Also mine. Jennifer, Marcus's new bride, spoke for the first time. I don't understand. If you own this place, why didn't you say something? Why did you let them treat you like that? Because I needed everyone to see exactly who they are, I said simply. I needed witnesses. I needed it documented. I looked at Marcus. I especially needed that Instagram post you made, Marcus. Know your place. With the hashtag family hierarchy? That's going to be really interesting evidence. Evidence, my mother said faintly. Evidence for what? For the lawsuit I'll be filing if anyone in this room tries to claim this was some sort of elaborate prank or that I'm lying. I have 8 months of property records, tax payments, insurance policies, and business licenses. I have the LLC formation documents showing I'm the sole owner. I have bank statements showing the $2.3 million purchase. Would you like David to show you the deed with my name on it? The room remained silent. I could see some guests exchanging glances, others looking down at their phones, probably already texting friends about what they were witnessing. A few people looked genuinely upset on my behalf, realizing they'd just watched a family publicly humiliate someone who owned the very ground they were standing on. My mother tried to regain control. Rebecca, this is Marcus's wedding day. Whatever issues you have, this is not the time or place. No, Mom. This is exactly the time and place. Because this is the culmination of years of you telling me I'm not good enough, not successful enough, not worthy enough to be considered real family. You made me use the service entrance at a venue I own. You put me at table 18 behind a column hidden away like something shameful. You erased me from the family slideshow. You made sure 127 people witnessed your contempt for me. I turned to address the room. I want to be clear to everyone here. I hold no ill will toward any of you. You're guests at what was supposed to be a celebration. But I need you to understand what you witnessed tonight. This family, I gestured to my parents and brother, has spent years treating me as less than human. They've accepted $347,000 in financial support from me over 6 years while publicly dismissing me as a failure. They've excluded me from family events, cropped me out of photos, and told me repeatedly that I'm not worthy of being called family. My father's face had gone from white to red. You're exaggerating. We never. I have bank records showing every transfer, Dad. Every time you called me at 11 p.m. asking for money to cover property taxes or medical bills or car repairs. Every time Mom needed help with expenses and begged me not to tell Marcus because he has his own life to worry about. $347,000 over 6 years. Would you like me to show everyone the spreadsheet? The guests were riveted now. This had gone from a wedding reception to something else entirely. A public unveiling of family dysfunction that no one could look away from. I could see some people recording everything on their phones and I didn't stop them. I wanted this documented. Marcus tried a different approach. Look, Becca, if you're upset about the seating. Don't call me Becca. You lost that right when you filmed me and posted it on Instagram with, "Know your place." I pulled out my own phone and held it up. I have screenshots. I also have screenshots of the family group chat where Mom told everyone I wasn't worth including in the family vacation last summer. And the email thread where you, Marcus, told Dad that I was embarrassing and shouldn't be invited to your promotion party. Jennifer touched Marcus's arm. You said you had one sister but she lived far away and you weren't close. You said she was busy with work. He lied, I said. I live 20 minutes from him. I've tried for years to be part of this family. They just decided I wasn't worth the effort. I looked at my parents. And tonight you made your position crystal clear. In front of 127 witnesses, you told me I'm not really family. My mother's eyes were filling with tears, but I couldn't tell if they were genuine or performative. Rebecca, please. You're making a scene. No, Mom. You made the scene when you sent me to the service entrance. You made the scene when you erased me from the slideshow. You made the scene when you seated me at the worst table in a venue I own. I'm just making sure everyone knows who made the scene first. David cleared his throat. Miss Chen, what would you like me to do regarding the remainder of the evening? It was the question everyone was waiting for. Would I shut down the reception? Would I throw them out? I could see the fear in my parents' eyes, the panic in Marcus's expression. The power had completely shifted and they knew it. I took a deep breath. The reception will continue as planned. Everyone here is welcome to stay and enjoy the rest of the evening. The bar remains open, the food will continue to be served, and the DJ will keep playing. I paid for all of it and I want Marcus's guests to have a nice time. I paused. However, effective immediately, I'm resigning from this family. Mom, Dad, Marcus. Consider this my formal notification that I'm done. No more phone calls asking for money. No more expectations that I'll show up to be insulted. No more pretending that I'm part of a family that doesn't want me. You can't just, my father started. I absolutely can. And I am. I looked at David. Please have security escort my parents and brother out after the reception ends. They're not welcome on this property after tonight. You can't ban us from a country club. Marcus said, his voice rising. We have memberships here. My friends have memberships. Actually, Marcus, you don't have a membership. When I purchased the property, I reviewed all the membership agreements. Our parents applied for membership 6 months ago, but the previous owner never processed it because they couldn't afford the $50,000 initiation fee. I found the paperwork in the pending files. I smiled. So no, you don't have memberships. You never did. You were just using the club as day guests for wedding planning meetings. The humiliation on their faces was complete. Everything they'd bragged about, the prestigious venue, their exclusive country club access, their elevated social status, had been built on a foundation they didn't own and couldn't afford. My mother was crying now, real tears of genuine distress. Rebecca, please. We can talk about this. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix, Mom. You made your choice tonight. You chose to humiliate me publicly, to erase me from family history, to treat me as less than human. The only reason you want to talk now is because you've realized I have money and property and success you didn't know about. If I'd stayed quiet about owning this place, you'd have kept treating me the same way forever. I turned to leave, then paused and looked back at the room full of witnesses. To everyone here, thank you for coming to celebrate Marcus and Jennifer. I genuinely hope you have a wonderful evening. The bar is fully stocked, the dessert bar is opening in 20 minutes. And the DJ has been instructed to take requests. Enjoy yourselves. I looked at my parents one final time. And please feel free to use the front entrance when you leave. Unlike me, you'll get that privilege. I walked out through the front entrance, not the service entrance, with my head high and my shoulders back. Behind me, I could hear the murmur of 127 people trying to process what they'd just witnessed. Some would side with my family. Some would think I'd been cruel. But most would remember that they'd watched a family publicly humiliate someone, only to discover that person held all the power they'd been denied. David caught up with me in the main lobby. Miss Chen, are you all right? I'm perfect, David. Make sure the staff takes care of the guest. I want everyone to have a good time despite the drama. Of course. And your family. After the reception ends at midnight, please have security escort them out. Change all the access codes, update the membership records, and make sure they understand they're not welcome back. Understood. He hesitated. For what it's worth, what you did in there took tremendous courage. It took 8 months of planning and $2.3 million, I said. But yes, it also took courage. I drove home that night, got into comfortable clothes, poured myself a glass of wine, and finally let myself feel everything I'd been holding back. I didn't cry, I was past tears. I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't know I could put down. My phone started ringing at 11:47 p.m., right as the reception would be ending. Marcus called first, then my mother, then my father, then Marcus again. I didn't answer. They called 6-7 times before midnight. Then the text started. How could you? You ruined everything. This is so cruel. Call us immediately. I blocked all their numbers at 12:15 a.m. and went to bed. The next morning my phone showed 89 missed calls from various family members. Aunts, uncles, cousins who'd been at the wedding. I blocked them all. A few sent emails instead, which I read out of curiosity. Most condemned me for ruining Marcus's special day. A few said I was petty and vindictive. 3 people, my cousin Sarah, my Aunt Patricia, and a family friend named Helen, sent messages of support. I can't believe they treated you that way, Sarah wrote. You showed incredible restraint. Most people would have shut down the whole reception. I responded to those 3, thanked them for their kindness, and deleted the rest of the emails without reading them. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from an attorney representing my parents. They were demanding I return the $347,000 they claimed I stole from them. The letter stated that the money was given under false pretenses, and that I had manipulated vulnerable elderly people. I forwarded the letter to my own attorney with copies of every bank transfer, every text message begging for money, every email about unpaid bills. My attorney responded to their attorney with a simple message. Ms. Chen has extensive documentation showing that all funds were gifts freely given. If your clients persist in making defamatory claims, we will file a countersuit for harassment and defamation. Additionally, Ms. Chen is prepared to provide evidence of financial elder abuse if your clients' claims suggest they were not mentally competent to manage their own finances. I never heard from that attorney again. 3 months after the wedding, I was having coffee at a local cafe when I ran into Jennifer, Marcus's wife. She was alone, looking stressed and tired. When she saw me, she hesitated, clearly unsure whether to approach. Rebecca, she said finally. Can I talk to you for a minute? I gestured to the empty chair across from me. Sure. She sat down, ordered a latte, and then said, I owe you an apology. I didn't know about any of it. Marcus told me you were distant, that you'd chosen not to be close to the family. He never mentioned that they treated you the way they did. Did he tell you I'd been sending them money for 6 years? No. I found out because your mother called me crying 3 weeks after the wedding, begging me to convince you to start sending them money again. She said they were going to lose their house. Jennifer looked down at her coffee. That's when I started asking questions. Marcus finally admitted they'd been borrowing money from you for years. He claimed it was no big deal, that family helps family. Did he mention that they never once thanked me? Or that they spent those same years telling me I was a failure? No. He didn't mention that either. She took a breath. I also found out that he knew about DataStream. He knew about your acquisition payout. He's been following the tech industry news for years. It's part of his job. He knew you made millions and he never said anything. That actually surprised me. He knew. He knew. And he deliberately kept it from your parents because, and these are his words, if they knew she had money, they'd stop respecting my success. Jennifer's hands were shaking slightly. He wanted you to stay small in their eyes so he could stay big. The cruelty of that took my breath away. It was one thing for my parents to be oblivious, to genuinely not know about my success. But Marcus knew, and he'd actively worked to keep me diminished in our parents' estimation. He'd protected his status as the golden child by ensuring I stayed the family disappointment. I'm filing for divorce, Jennifer said quietly. That's why I wanted to talk to you. I need you to know that I didn't know, and I'm sorry I didn't speak up that night. I should have said something when they made you use the service entrance. I should have questioned why you weren't in the family photos. I was so caught up in wedding planning and trying to fit into his family that I didn't pay attention to what was really happening. You're not responsible for their behavior, I told her. And you're not responsible for Marcus's lies. Maybe not. But I participated in it by staying silent. That makes me complicit. She pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. This is from the wedding. I thought you should have it. I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $47,000, the deposit my family had paid for the venue, which I'd put into escrow and planned to return eventually. I can't take this, I said, pushing it back toward her. Yes, you can. Marcus used money from our joint account, money I earned, to make that deposit. I'm giving it to you as a wedding gift for the wedding that should have celebrated you instead of excluding you." She stood up. "I'm sorry, Rebecca. I'm sorry for all of it." She left before I could respond. I sat there with the check, processing the fact that Marcus's wife had shown me more decency in a 10-minute conversation than my family had shown me in 34 years. It's been 18 months since Marcus's wedding. I still own Riverside Country Club, which has become quite profitable under my management. I've used the property for charity events, hosting fundraisers for local schools and community organizations. The service entrance has been permanently closed and converted into an office suite. There's only one entrance now and everyone uses it. My parents lost their house 8 months after the wedding. Without my monthly transfers, they couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments. They had to sell and move into a small rental apartment. I heard through the grapevine that they tried to take out loans using Marcus's income as collateral, but he refused to help them. The golden child apparently only shines when it's convenient. Marcus and Jennifer's divorce was finalized 4 months ago. I heard he's dating someone new, another lawyer with the right pedigree and connections. My mother called me from a number I didn't recognize, leaving a voicemail saying they'd made mistakes and wanted to start fresh. I didn't call back. I don't miss them. That's the part that surprises me most. I genuinely don't miss being part of a family that never valued me. I've built my own family now. Sarah, my cousin who supported me, has become one of my closest friends. Aunt Patricia and I have dinner once a month. I've gotten involved in mentorship programs for young women in tech, and those relationships have become more meaningful than any biological connection I ever had. Last week I was having dinner with a group of friends, people I'd met through work and community activities, people who knew me as Rebecca the successful businesswoman and property owner, not Rebecca the family disappointment. One of them asked about my family and I realized I hadn't thought about them in weeks. "I don't talk to them anymore," I said. "They made it clear I wasn't worth their respect, so I made it clear they weren't worth my time." My friend nodded. "Good for you. Family is supposed to lift you up, not tear you down." And that's exactly right. Family, real family, celebrates your success, supports your dreams, and treats you with basic human dignity. Anything less than that isn't family. It's just people who happen to share your DNA. I learned that lesson at my brother's wedding, standing at the service entrance of a country club I owned, watching 127 people witness my family's cruelty. I learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let people reveal exactly who they are, then walk away with your head high and your dignity intact. Marcus got his perfect wedding at his perfect venue. My parents got to play the role of proud family for 127 witnesses. And I got something much more valuable. Freedom from people who would never see my worth no matter what I achieved. The service entrance is closed now. Everyone comes through the front door. Everyone is welcomed with respect. And if anyone ever tries to tell someone they're not really family on my property, they'll be the ones using the exit. I'm Rebecca Chen. I'm 34 years old. I own a successful country club, have investments worth over $8 million, and I'm surrounded by people who actually care about me. My biological family humiliated me in front of 127 witnesses, thinking I was powerless. They were wrong. And now they know it. And I've never been happier in my entire life.